What's something that's not right about your body, but not serious enough to go to a doctor about? I have a catch in my throat when I breathe. If I don't hit that catch, I feel like I haven't gotten enough air. This means I take huge, deep breaths all the time. And it gets even worse with exercise. Doc says it ain't asthma. And he can't do anything about it, so I just gave up on finding an answer. I have a similar issue, but it's intermittent. I've come to the conclusion that it's worse when I'm feeling anxious. Triggers the constant need to yawn as well. Sometimes I suddenly hear the void of nothing in one ear. And then sound slowly readjusts over a couple seconds. And sometimes I notice that my eyes don't see objects as the same colors. Weird, but not really a problem, so we just carry on. I have the same ear thing where I get a rush noise, and then ringing for a minute, then it goes away. I was told it's the equalization of pressure in my eustachian tubes. I experience something that's called exploding head syndrome. Something that is much less severe than the name might imply. Basically, sometimes, right as I'm on the edge of sleep, I'll hear a loud auditory hallucination that jolts me back awake. Pretty rare though, only happens to me maybe once a month. Both my girlfriend and I have this. It happens to us probably 2 to 3 times a year. We dated for 6 years before it came up in conversation. We looked it up and it's actually pretty rare. The weirdest part for me is what the noises sound like. They don't sound like anything from this world. And they're so loud. But loud from the inside, if that makes any sense. Always scares the peep out of me. Really though, not a problem I would ever see a doctor for. It's one of the most minor inconveniences in my life. I've never seen a more accurate description. A lot of people I've told think it's stuff like crashing or actual explosions. But it's really otherworldly and nearly impossible to explain. I can recount the noises in my head. But if you asked me what they actually sound like, I wouldn't be able to put it into words. I have this. It sounds like super loud electricity to me most of the time. Like being super close to an arcing wire or something. On rare occasions it's just like a horn blast from a train, but mostly electricity noises. Thanks Peep, I read your comment. I have had this for a few years now. And found out about exploding head syndrome relatively recently after it started. But based on others' accounts, I assumed it wasn't it because I feel it more than I hear it. And I also never equated it to being explosion-like. When I describe it to people, I use degaussing an old computer monitor as an example. I sometimes get a full body jolt like I'm being electrified. If that helps. It's just an all-around weird and sometimes scary feeling. I've had a white section of hair since I was like 13. No clue why. It's just a part of my hair that grows without pigment. The rest is dark brown, almost black. I believe that's anime protagonist disease. I wish Ops parents the best. Poor souls. I have a bifid uvula, looks like a little upside down heart that's hanging in the back of your mouth. I never had any problems from it. And it definitely wasn't caused by any of the things listed in the article I linked. But there it is. Funny thing is, my twin has a normal uvula. And we're identical twins. I also have this. Unfortunately, mine looks more like balls than an upside down heart. Sometimes I'll have one random hair that grows out of my arm that has the consistency of plastic and is almost clear looking. My mom gets it too. It's just one hair. I used to get that on my face. Every month or so it grew out of my chin/cheek area. It stopped appearing after a few years. Which is good cause it would itch. I've never heard of anyone else who had this outside of my family. That's crazy. I haven't gotten one of those in a little while, but my mom still occasionally gets them as well. I get these too. I never catch it until it's absurdly long. My left ear itches a lot. Like the inside? Mine too. Not constantly. But like once every day or other day. I have to squish my head into my shoulder to itch it best. It's so annoying. I have a minor issue in my right knee. A third but tiny nipple under my normal sized right one, which is slightly higher placed than the one on my left. Asymmetrical abs and a slightly blurry vision in my left eye. Not necessarily wrong. But weird, I guess. You should see a doctor about the eye thing. Play your cards right and you could come out of this with a fully justifiable monocle. Monocles require no justification. This is the way. The texture of the skin on my right palm changed after I was sick back in March. Sometimes it's bubbly and really itchy. Sometimes it looks just really tight and glossy, and sometimes it's so dry that the skin is cracking up. I can definitely see a difference between the right and the left one. The little Rhodes fingerprints on the palm on my right palm aren't as visible anymore. That sounds very much like dihydrotic eczema. I had it when I was pregnant. It sucks. Edit: this is not a diagnosis. You need to see a physician for a diagnosis. Dude, this sounds like what I've been getting lately. I'm pretty sure mine's mostly stress triggered and, well, lots of stress lately, lol. Stress will feep you up. I have a full head of hair. But for a while, I had 3 bald patches because of stress. I got a new job. And my hair grew back. I used to have a hedgehog named Velcro. I'd let him run around on my bed. One morning I slid out of bed and got a sharp pain in my left ass cheek. I walked to the bathroom and saw that I had a ½ inch of quill lodged firmly in my haunch. I pulled out what I could and thought I got it all. It wept a few times and eventually healed. It'd been 20 years. And I still have a scab on my ass that falls off once a month. And comes back in a few days. I can feel there's something deep under the skin. But because of the bad angle, there's no way I can take care of it without a dermatologist's help. That would drive me insane. I would have no choice but to see a dermatologist. Or an unscrupulous friend with a pocket knife. Honestly, I'd take whatever I could get at that point. My hip always hurts. Especially in cold weather. But doctors would say to just take a Tylenol and rest. Same but my knees, and it happens when the weather changes. Yep. My left knee and left elbow. Both had dislocation injuries. I can tell about 2 days before the weather is going to turn to steep. I remember one day I was complaining about my knee aching. And said, "Oh, we're gonna have a storm in a few days." And he looked at me like I was crazy. Pulled the weather up on his phone and was like, "This says it's going to be sunny all week." 2 days later a tornado hit our town. I'm like a chubby Great Value Shakira. These joints don't lie. There's an indent on my right foot where a horse stepped on it. I never went to a doctor about it and I assume it is in fact broken, but it's been almost 20 years. There was a guy who was walking home and felt something hit his head. He assumed it was a falling brick. Years later, he hit his head again and got an X-ray. It revealed a bullet lodged in his skull, stopping just barely short of the brain. The earlier incident must have been a ricochet or a stray shot fired from too far away. The doctors left it as is because adequate scar tissue had already grown around the bullet. Lamau, imagine someone accidentally shooting you in the back of the head, then you looking around like WTF? And walking off. I would peeping speep myself. Must have been the wind. I had an extra set of wisdom teeth that were hidden in behind that weren't picked up by x-rays. The dentist only found them when doing a routine extraction of my normal wisdom teeth. They were like tiny baby teeth that weren't fully developed. The dentist said that he'd never seen that before. He wasn't a young guy either. I've had 6 or 7 wisdom teeth removed and now another MF is starting to come out. Like, how wise am I supposed to be? I certainly don't live up to that. Well, it sounds like you're voluntarily removing the wisdom from your body. Start leaving them in. When I blow my nose, my left eye bubbles from the corner. Like air coming through? Freaks me out every time because it feels so weird. The nasolacrimal duct is what drains your tears from eyes to nose. If you generate enough pressure, you can blow air back up it. Fun fact, I can inhale this way if I try hard enough, lol. You have me trying to inhale through my eyeballs. I got a concussion early January this year and I still don't feel the same 11 months later. No doctors could do anything about it as it's just post-concussion syndrome and it's somewhat common for it to affect people for a year or more after. For those asking, I feel better than before. Nothing too scary. It was a mild concussion. I'm mostly dealing with mild insomnia, brain fog, and mood issues and a few other things. On my bad days when symptoms flare up more, I just have to remind myself to take a lot of breaks. It's rough. I'm 11 years out from a horrible TBI ICU for a week. Luckily no surgery. And I honestly don't know when I was 100% again. It took at least 5 years. And it was a lot of learning new ways to do things I did very naturally before. My 100% now is probably at least 25% different from what it was. I hope your injury wasn't as bad as mine. I'm 90% certain I have vitiligo, but I'm a pale-ass Slav and I can only notice it on my nether regions because it makes a patch of my pubes blonde. I think this summer I should get a tan to confirm this. Do you have access to a black light or woods lamp? I'm pretty pale, but I was noticing blotches on my skin that were paler. I thought I just applied sunscreen unevenly on my hands and cheeks. But eventually I went to a doctor and they shined a black light on the affected areas. The areas without pigment stood out significantly compared to my normal skin. I'll give it a try, thanks. It's been 2 hours. Pale-ass Slav. Report back. I think they are busy explaining why they are shining a black light at their groin to whoever walked in on them. A black light in that region has a vast